Hi friends, it's Liz from Elizabeth Straight Studio. I'm here with another episode of the Studio Notes podcast, and I have a couple of new projects and updates to share with you, so I thought I would quickly record an episode before I head into work. It has been so hard to find any kind of daylight to do any photos, to do any like podcasts. It is that time of year in Wisconsin. I'm missing the sunshine, but I'm gonna sneak it in really quick, so it might be a shorter one today. We'll see. But the first big project update that I have to share with you are the Wilder mitts. This is a new pattern. I actually just posted the test knit call this morning, and you can find that in my Ravelry. I'll link it in the description of this video, but I sent an email out. If you're on my test knit email list, that's the best way to make sure you don't miss that. Otherwise I'll post it on my social media a couple of times, and it's in my Ravelry group for just the Elizabeth Street Studio group. But the Wilder mitts are finished. The tech editing is done. My tech editor that I usually use is Kayla Anderson from Heritage Arts Co. If you're looking for a test for a tech editor, she is excellent. Like, she's super easy to work with, and like she's always super encouraging. So I really enjoyed working with her the last, I don't know, couple of years actually, probably. She's great to work with if you are looking for a tech editor. But the Wilder mitts are all finished. They are a little pair of colorwork mitts. Look at that. I hope these are gonna be warm enough today. It's like the wind is blowing so hard you can hear it through the walls today, and it's, I'm not ready for winter, but having pretty knits makes it not so hard, right? So these have, I need to weave in all the ends on this one, but I was too excited to take pictures. They're a little pair of colorwork mitts, fingerless. Maybe I should add a mitten top. That'd be a good pattern update, wouldn't it? They have some like nice graphic color work. Get in the light there. So you could choose this would be so fun to go diving through your stash for these. You need less than a skein, even of the main color, for both mitts. And I used Knit Picks palette. They have really fun colors to pick from. I would love to do a pair of these in Jameson, the Shetland wool. That'd be really fun. I have to find a US stockist for that. But it's the samples are knit out of the Knit Picks palette, and I absolutely loved the results that I got. I know it's a little bit more of a budget yarn, but I loved working with it. It was so great. So the colors are, the green is Clove Heather, the white is Finley Heather. It's kind of like a silvery off-white. It's like a natural white, definitely more undertones of like grayish than like pure white. And then the pink is Tea Rose, which I think is a really fun pop of color. And they look complicated, but you only use 2 colors at a time. So I worked that strategically so that you could either break your yarn or just leave your other colors, leave that one for a row, and then join up your other ones. But there's only 2 colors used at once. So if you are new to color work, I think this would be totally fine for you. And then you just carry your yarn across the thumb. So there isn't any extra color work on the thumb. You can just carry your yarns behind your main color. But the Wilder mitts, I just love how they turned out. You could really easily totally change how these look if you use some of these like more earthy tones and maybe a more like subtle color combination without so much contrast. You could get this kind of like vintagey vibe. But if you could also do a really bright pop of color too. I used some stash yarn that I had from, I think it was just from my grandma's stash that I inherited after she passed away. And I made, this is the first one that I made. Like, look how different, what a different vibe. I changed the pattern just a little bit after this. They look a little different, but you can see how different they look just based on what kind of colors you enjoy. I definitely tend to go towards like earth tones and maybe like one bright color and not like 3. But this one, I love how this turned out with the bright blue and the red. That turned out really well too. So you can get a really different look based on what kind of colors you like. So it's a really fun way to play with your yarns and what you've got left in your stash. You need a very tiny bit of the red. I don't have the yards in front of me, but it's less than 5 yards. Super, super small. So this would be a great way to use up some stash. And if you're test knitting, you could probably even be done by Christmas if you needed some Christmas gifts yet. Just saying. I might make some for my niece yet. I don't know if I'm gonna have time. We'll see. But the Wilder mitts, this is a pattern I've actually been working on like since February, maybe since February in some form or another. It started with some big old, look at these, look how big they are, they're giant. It started with me playing around with some worsted weight Icelandic wool that I had, but I mean, if you've done more color work than I have, then you know like worsted weight is gonna be real thick and like really bulky when you have those layers together with your floats across the back. So I was like, I like the kind of graphic color pattern going on, but I don't like the actual yarn. So I kind of played around with it, and I used some knit picks and random scraps that I had, and this is like actually an early prototype of it. Look how cute and little it is. And I originally had some color work across the thumb. Like, look at that, look how cute that is. But I wanted something that hugged your wrist a little bit more. So if you have like, I hate having, if I'm wearing my jacket, like I want it to go underneath my jacket all the way so that the wind doesn't go up my arm. You know what I mean? So I was like, I want a little bit more on the wrist, and you can see there was a little bit of just color work carrying across the thumb, but I couldn't quite get that right because you see there's a line of the contrast color 2, that pink right across the middle, and I was like, I really want to work that into the thumb somehow so you don't have to worry about, I was like, I'm not quite sure how to work that. So I just decided to just carry everything across the back of the thumb and just have it be one color instead of try to figure out the thumb color work, because this is my first color work pattern. So it's like, I'm just going to keep that part simple. I've got enough going on in the body of the mitt as it is. So, and I also kind of worked on the thumb gusset a little bit more. In this version, I just increased in the middle of 2 sets of, in between the first and the last stitch. And I always find that starting that is a little bit weird because you're like making 2 increases out of 1 space. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in practice I found that to be a little confusing. So with the final one, you actually use one of the stitches in the body actually becomes a thumb gusset stitch, so you're increasing on either side of that stitch instead of trying to make 2 increases out of 1 space. So I found that to be easier to make it look nice, especially if you're working magic loop and you have to, or DPNs or magic loop, and you're trying to keep that space in between the needles when you switch from one to the other to keep that space consistent and your tension correct. So a couple of changes, a couple of things. I've actually already worked out a kind of sister chart to the mitt chart, and I'm gonna start knitting a hat. It might be like a folded brim, I haven't decided yet. These use, the ribbing is twisted 1x1 ribbing, and I'm kind of getting sick of twisted ribbing. I use it a lot. I use it on like a whole bunch of my hat patterns. Like, maybe I'll just do regular for ribbing, and I don't know, I kind of want a folded brim. I'm not sure yet, but I mean, that's an easy just option to customize though. But I've already worked out a sister color chart pattern that's looking really, really good. So I'm excited to jump into that when I have some time. So those are the Wilder mitts. Like I said, I just posted the test knit today, and that information, I'll link it here in case anyone watching this is interested. I'm gonna be a little bit flexible with I think this is an easy one. I think you almost have 5 weeks. The deadline is like the end of the first week of January. So you have like the whole Christmas time and like after New Year's. Like I know this is kind of a weird time for people, but I feel like there's a lot of visiting and traveling, and if you're looking for something to do that isn't too complicated, I think this would be a great contender for a holiday project. And I am completely okay if testers just want to finish 1 mitt in that time frame instead of 2. And that's totally fine. You'll get the same experience, you just have to repeat it. So as long as you're willing to like kind of keep track of your yardage and take photos and do the Ravelry project, as long as you're willing to do that part, I'm completely okay with just finishing 1 mitt instead of 2. So that's a little bit about the Wilder mitts. I'm so happy to have that ready and out, and I just love these colors so much. Oh, they're so pretty. Oh, here's another, look at this green. This is one of the Knit Picks palette skeins. This is, what is it? What's the color name? I think it's spruce. Oh, Douglas fir. It's close. Douglas fir. Like, look at that gorgeous green. I love it so much. I think this is going to be the main color, the dark green. I didn't really talk about that today. The main color is the dark green, the white is the contrast color 1, and then the pink is the contrast color 2. So you need 3 colors. And I think this dark green Douglas fir I'm going to use as the main color for the hat version, or the kind of sister pattern to Wilder. So that's my plan there. We'll see how far I get this month. I have some other goals to finish up this month as well. The other thing I've been working on is my sweater pattern, and this is Ginger, and I've talked about Ginger I think in my last couple episodes as well. But here is, oops, I was like, I can show you my progress. You don't start coming undone. So here's my current progress on Ginger. Look at that color. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. So I've talked a lot about the construction and the history and development of Ginger, so I'm not going to do that today, but I just wanted to show you what I have so far, and just like how good this is looking in this yarn. Like, look at those ribbed cables. This is knit in ampersand fibers. Oh, I can't remember the names now. Jensen DK, that's what it is. Jensen DK, and I believe this is the Vermilion 3 colorway. Oh, I cannot wait to block that. That's gonna be really beautiful. But Ginger is officially in tech editing now, which is really exciting and a little bit overwhelming. There's a lot of back and forth that's gonna happen with this. But I'm excited to jump into it and just figure it all out. The pattern is going to be in 9 sizes, which is part of why there's just a lot of editing and a lot of pieces happening, to make sure that everything works out for each size. But I'm really proud of the fact that I'm doing 9 sizes